So today I'm going to discuss about the best artistic suicides, and mainly for this topic, I have choose five writers about whom I'm going to discuss. The points I have to ponder is the five main writers, and the another one is suicide rates in various countries and uh, various age groups. Then the another thing is social norms behind the suicide and psychological norms behind the suicide. Then conclusion. So the first writer I have choose is Virginia Woolf. Um, Virginia Woolf was uh, I would like to start discussing with his one quote that against you I will flying myself unvanquished and unyielding, O death. So this sentence show his deep desire towards the death, and Wolf was. As we see that she was wear a coat the full of fur and filled its pocket with the stones and drowned himself into the river Ouse, and at the on March 28, 1941. And the main reasons behind it is very much artistic way of making suicide. The reasons behind her suicide I was found is she was physically abused when she was 6 years old. From that to 23 years she was constantly abused by his brothers. So that thing make him make he's mentally ill. Then the another thing is depression and mental illness. uh, Her mother's death and this abusement are lead her towards the mental illness and depression. The another is her homosexual relationship with Vita Sackville. As we see that the broken relationship with Vita Sackville are reason behind her mental illness which lead her towards the suicide. Nazism. She is belong from the Jew family, like her husband was Jew. So at that time the Nazis are overpowering all of that places, and she is constantly suffering from that trauma, mental trauma. Then the society, as she sentenced that lock up your libraries if you like, but there is no gate, no lock, no bolt that you can set upon the freedom of my mind. We see that at that time she was fighting for the girls who are not allowed to go to university. So that fighting make her against towards society, and that tension he has in her mind, and she was that thing lead her towards the suicide. That argument I have made from these newspaper cuttings and her handwritten suicide note, which I have mentioned, I have put here. The another one is Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway's death is very much interesting. Is also very much interesting. Like as we see, Hemingway shot himself, but after his death, his wife told that he was not killed himself, but he was mistakenly shoot himself while he was cleaning the weapon. So that thing is there. Mm. And his wife, Mary, fourth wife of him, wrote in the newspaper, the New York Times of that time. She wrote that Mr. Hemingway accidentally killed himself while cleaning a gun this morning at 7:30 a.m. No time has been set for the funeral service, which will be private. So this sentence directly reference that how he is died very uniquely. And the unique thing here is, not only he was died because of by shooting himself, but his father also died at same way. uh, this newspaper clips are also talking about the points I have discussed. The another one is Sylvia Plath. Sylvia committed suicide in at 11 February 1963, London. she was uh, she was also bef- when she was died, before that also she tried to commit suicide, but she failed. At one point of time she was seen his lover with someone, some other girl walking in the university campus, and she get jealous and she tried to skip, or she tried to commit suicide but saved, and then later on she committed suicide. And his suicide is also very unique, like she sticking her head in the oven in London home on February 11, 63, and died. And by the reasons of her suicide is love, like she get jealous of that, I have told. Extreme workload, as her parents told to the newspaper that our daughter died because of the extreme workload of university, that newspaper have put in the next slide. Then the mental instability or because of the workload, and she also rejected by her work was also rejected by many publishers, so that thing is also there in her mind, and which is caused the mental trauma in her, and then lead her towards the death. This is the that newspaper I have put. And the another one is Sergei Yasmin. He was died at 28 December 1925 at age of 13 because of high alcoholism and depression. And he wrote he before he died, he wrote one poem in his own blood, and then hang himself into um, and died. And the last one is Anne Seston. She was also suffering from the depression most of the from the most of her time, most of the time in her life. And also she died because of like we can say shelf, and because of the extreme level of extreme breathing carbon monoxide, she was died. So that how she committed suicide. Here I put charts of suicide rates. Like first chart is all about like how people choose to commit suicide, like by fire, poisoning, suffocation, and other. The another chart is of the country-wise male and female suicide rates, and the last one is age-wise suicide rates. And I want to discuss the social norms behind the suicide in reference of that five writers I have choose. Like social environment around the person cause mental illness, and that lead them toward the suicide. As we see uh, in the reference of Virginia Woolf, that she was highly tortured by the society, which caused his suicide. Then the another one is ritual and culture and sheeple environment. Like people are believing in one thing. If you are believing in the different thing than them, then that is problematic for society, and that torture you have to suffer, or you have to commit suicide. That you have just two ways. And so if that torture are also, if we see suffering, Virginia Woolf is suffering from that, the lack of ability to deal with society, that thing is also there. That if we don't have that capacity to fight with the society or to deal with the society, then we have to suffer. In one journal, Health Communication, sentence of Downs and Estenberg are mentioned that the relatively low level of public stigma about those who use mental health service to shift perceived social norms and promote more positive attitude about treatment uses, which is also relevant with that. Then another one is psychological reasons behind the suicide. Behind each suicide, an attempt is long term of struggle, a mental struggle that is there. As we see, like Ernest Hemingway was also suffering from the high tension, hypertension, and he was taking therapies also Virginia Woolf is the same way suffering. Then the another three writers are also suffering from the same term, the mental illness. So that thing is there. The another is suicide is the major health problem and leading cause of death worldwide. Um, that is the truth in not only this in the reference of this writer, but it is also in the normal human beings, like that suicide are the major problem, and the suicide are mainly caused by the mental disease or mental instability. Then if we have some horrible and painful experience according to psychology, that is lead the long time horrible and painful experience are lead us towards the suicide, as we see that the another one writer I have mentioned here, this Sylvia Plath is also have long term mental stress, and the ancestor is also suffered from the long time sufferings. So that thing is, and because of that, they are lead towards the suicide. Long time stress and extreme level of tension is also there, and these all terms are I have taken in reference of a journal titled Editorial The Psychology of Suicide from Research Understanding to Intervention and Treatment. If you want to read that journal, you can click and read. Thank you. This is my resources and citations.
Yes. So, by the time we believe that literature is a great way to express oneself, then why writers choose to suicide or kill themselves by the special this act of suicide? And do childhood memories play a role in the act of suicide? And another question I have typed, but due to network issue, uh, it's not posted. For the act of suicide, which is more strong aspect, as you have mentioned, the psychological aspect and social aspect. So if the person is going to attempt the suicide, then which is the strong aspect is playing a role, social or psychological? And if you are choosing one of them, then how the person is can stop that act. Like if you are telling psychological, then it is strong. Then how the person is relate to that special aspect.
Okay, so I'm giving first your second question's answer. I'm giving first that if the person choose the death, then the sociological or psychological two aspects are there. But I think the psychological aspects are more general, because the society is there. So society are not going to change it. It is as it is, but how the person looking at them, that is also a psychological perspective, that how he or she is going to look the society, how it is he or she taking it positively or negatively. So I think if they choose positive aspect, then they don't commit suicide. And if they're not choosing the positive aspect or choosing negative aspect, or looking the society in very in depressive way, then the psychological aspect, so it is all about the psychological aspect to, and can you repeat your first question, please?
Yes, I have asked firstly is that literature is a great way to express oneself. Then why writers choose to do suicide, and do childhood memories playing role in the act of suicide?
In if we see that I have mentioned in my slide that Sylvia Plath is not accepted. Her writings are not accepted by these publishers. Why it is not accepting? Because there is something. She wrote something which is against to the mentality of the society or the publisher. So sometimes it is happened that literature is the best way to express their emotions, but what happens that that literature is also not accepted by the society, that is create such kind of mess in the writers, and that lead towards them depression and suicide. And the childhood memory, yes, of course, childhood memory is also playing, as we have one novel Pamela, that is also about the childhood memory. And here in the case of Virginia Woolf, it is also about the childhood memory, like she is abused at the age of 6 to 23, and that thing live with her throughout her life. So it is not possible, you can forget that for a while, for some time, but some in between your life, chapter of your life, it is recalling, it is emerging itself, you are not able to forgot it fully.
Yes, Himanshi, my question is, can we discuss Camus' concept of suicide in your topic? And my second question during your answering to Hamisha, that you said that taking positively or negative, but what about freedom? That your topic is the suicide of the great artist there. But if we talk about for the concept of Camus' philosophy of suicide, that there is freedom is centralized. So how can you say that?
Okay, you are talking about freedom of suicide, or which kind of freedom you are talking
Okay,
about?
my question is that can we discuss Camus' concept of suicide in your book? This.
Okay, so Camus is talking about the freedom of freedom in the human being, or we can say like that freedom of human being. So that concept I want to apply in this, that they, no human being have right to committed suicide, or that the human being is not free as much to to make suicide, or even to kill himself. But writers are doing that, or not only writers, are human beings are doing that because of the high depression, or the sometimes the situation are not in their hand, they are out of control. Then they don't have they have no capacity to think that this is right, I have this right, or I don't have that freedom, I have this, or I have don't, they just make an action. So that thing is in the center, that when your depression or some depression, or we can say mental illness, are go out of boundaries, then the things are not in your hand,